So I'm pretty pissed off. I'm not gonna lie. And it's not because how the Bulls have been playing recently, although that's definitely part of it, which I'll get into. It's not the poor play that we've seen from our two All-Stars in DeMar DeRozan and Zach Lavine, which I'll also get into, but it's the absolute garbage officiating we have seen in recent games for the Bulls. Again, the Bulls as a team are also to blame, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'll get into that. And you guys know I'm not normally one to complain about officiating, like even in the last two post-game videos in which the free throw disparity between the Bulls and their opponent was insane. You guys can go back. I mainly blame that on the Bulls' poor defense and also not being aggressive enough on offense to draw fouls. Sure, the refs had a bit to do with that, but then when we saw the same exact thing happen tonight, I couldn't stand by it and I had to vent about it. Now, for what it's worth, the game seemed much more evenly called in the second half, to the point where when you look at the box score, you see that the Bulls had 26 free throw attempts compared to the Sixers' 34, which you think, okay, that isn't that bad. But at halftime, the Sixers had already taken 20 free throws compared to the Bulls' 8. And get this, if you factor in the free throw disparity for the Bulls over the last 10 quarters from that point, it was 81-26 in favor of the Bulls' opponent over the last 10 quarters. 81-26. Like I said, some of that is on the Bulls, but at some point you have to take a step back and say, what the heck is going on here? Like DeMar DeRozan, one of the best guys in the league at drawing contact and getting to the line, just simply was not getting calls, even though he was making all the same plays that he usually does that have enabled him to get to the line so easily. And just the sheer amount of ticky-tack calls that are really the most obvious no calls in my opinion, or even worse, so many calls in which the Bulls got called for a foul when it could have been an offensive foul from the other team. The other night against the Bucks, Grayson Allen, the punk Grayson Allen, yet again with his clown antics, stuck a subtle knee out to trip Dosunmu that didn't get noticed by the refs. Tonight, you had James Harden intentionally push Tristan Thompson from behind into Zach Lavine while he was going up for a layup, and the refs called it a common foul. And this was after reviewing it, and you clearly saw James Harden pushing Thompson into Lavine. No flagrant, nothing. Clean play, right? And oh my God, how many times were we gonna give Embiid the call for the swipe through, or even when he was throwing his body around and never getting an offensive foul called? Anyway, enough ranting about the refs, but I seriously wonder if we have ever seen that kind of free throw disparity across the league that we saw from the Bulls in the last 3 games. But look, let's talk about the Bulls, because there were problems with the way the Bulls executed tonight. I will say though, before I get into all the negatives, I fully expected the Bulls to get blown out of this one. Like after it was announced that Vucevic would be missing the game and the Bulls were going to have to rely on Tristan Thompson and Tony Bradley to go against Joel Embiid, you knew we were going to be in for a long night. But the Bulls actually kept this one competitive. Like, yes, there was a point where the Sixers were up by as many as 17 or 18, I believe it was, but this game really wasn't over until the final 2 minutes or so. And this was against a fully healthy Sixers team. Their entire starting lineup was in compared to the Bulls, who had to start Tristan Thompson, Javonte Green, DeMar DeRozan, Zach Lavine, and Dosunmu. So that in and of itself was a positive. And despite the Bulls not getting the calls that they wanted, they still fought through. Usually you see Bulls players getting frustrated, complaining to the refs, getting their heads down and not competing, but it wasn't the case in this one. Now, I want to start with DeMar DeRozan and Zach Lavine because I really didn't like the way they played tonight, either of them. And this isn't me saying, oh, Lavine and DeRozan are trash and they're the problem for the Bulls in their recent slump, because I know some Bulls fans will take what I'm saying here and run with it like, no, they're still our 2 best players and they're all-stars. But they're our best players and all-stars for a reason, and I have higher expectations of them than, say, someone like Javonte Green. And it's one of those things, again, where you look at the box score and you say, dude, what are you talking about? DeMar and Zach had solid nights, but it's the things that don't show up in the stat sheet that I was really bothered by. Normally, I'm always talking about guys doing great things that don't show up in the stat sheet, like the intangibles from guys like Caruso and Javonte Green. But no, for Lavine and DeMar, it was actually those intangibles where they failed at tonight. Zach Lavine, yet again, making careless decisions in the 4th quarter where he tries to take over, taking low percentage shots or turning the ball over. DeRozan, normally we don't get mad at him because when his ISO plays happen and he gets to his spot on the floor, he usually hits his shot. So when they're falling, it's great. And when they're not, as fans were like, what the heck is going on? And we see it as a bad shot. Now, I'm not saying that DeRozan's shots are bad or that they were bad tonight, because he's really been given the green light to do what he wants from the mid-range. and he's been so deadly from the floor that you really can't be mad. But it's more so him trying to do too much to get a bucket rather than keeping up the pace of offense and moving the ball around. Like, I hope I'm wrong in this regard, but it seems like sometimes DeRozan is getting a little caught up in the moment of the storyline surrounding him for this resurgence that he's having from going to being a fringe all-star to an MVP candidate and the king of the fourth quarter, that he tries to save the team in these moments, and it's backfiring lately because it'll be a one-and-out possession for the Bulls where no one else touches the ball but him. What's crazy is that you look at his stat line and DeRozan damn near had a triple-double, 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists, but he also he shot 6 for 17 and had 3 turnovers and was minus 11 tonight. For Zach Lavine, he shot better than DeMar did. He was 8 for 19, 3 for 6 from 3, 8 rebounds and 5 assists, but he also had 5 turnovers and was minus 6. And I really, really wanted to see these guys step up in big ways tonight, knowing that they were going to be without Vucevic. Like, I know it's other guys on them as well to step up, and some guys did. Like, Coby White had a great game tonight coming off the bench. But those are our leaders. Lavine and DeRozan are. And the leaders weren't making smart decisions with the ball tonight, plain and simple. Tristan Thompson actually showed up decently well in the starting lineup in place of Vucevic. He got into some major foul trouble, but who didn't tonight with the way the refs were blowing the whistle. But Thompson, in his 29 minutes, scored 13 points on 6 for 8 shooting and had 9 rebounds. Also, did anyone catch Stacey King calling him the nightmare when he had that shake on Embiid like an old Hakeem Olajuwon, but instead of calling him the dream, calling it the nightmare? I nearly died laughing. It worked, though. He got the bucket. Ayo had a solid game tonight, even though it won't look like it in the stat sheet. I think the thing for me about Ayo is, not all the time, but most of the time, he just makes smart heads-up plays. Like when he took the ball away for a steal on a bad pass from Embiid and ran it down the court, going at Harden, knowing he's not a good defender, rather than passing it up. Like, that's just a heads-up play by a rookie. And I hate to say it, but I feel like Ayo right now has the highest basketball IQ for the Bulls. Like, really, I know some will consider that to be a hot take, but really, when you look at our roster of players available and who has the most poise, court awareness, and decision-making on the team, I have a hard time putting anyone over Ayo if Lonzo and Caruso aren't available. Doesn't mean that I think Ayo is better than any of the other guys in the starting lineup, but from an IQ standpoint, I think Ayo has it over most of the guys on this roster. Now, Coby White was solid tonight, stepping up in a big way on the scoring front while Vucevic was out. 19 points on 7 for 16 shooting. He was aggressive in getting to the basket, setting up nice plays. So it was good to see Coby showing up well. And then Derrick Jones Jr. was great in the minutes off the bench that he had. The Bulls had to resort to him playing the 5 tonight because of the foul trouble from Tristan Thompson and Tony Bradley. Also just because Bradley was all around bad. But Derrick Jones Jr. also had another epic dunk like he did the other night. It's what he does best. Oh, and finally, the other thing that's been pissing me off recently, guys, is reactionary Bulls fans. I mean, you guys probably know by now, but I have a live chat during the games. It's just a chat. I don't have a live call or anything. But lately, the chats have been getting incredibly toxic with the reactionary and prisoner of the moment Bulls fans. And it's like, guys, I get it. We've lost 5 in a row. Does it suck? Yes. Am I pissed about it and not pleased with the effort from the Bulls? You bet. But have some perspective. This team is leaps and bounds better than any team that we've had since the D-Rose era. No one thought that we would be sitting where we are this far into the season. And need I remind you, the Bulls are still holding their own while being shorthanded. And even some guys aren't playing at 100% like Zach Lavine. The swing in Bulls fandom from claiming that we're title contenders when the Bulls are on a winning streak to we're trash, we'll be lucky to make the play-in once we're losing, will just never cease to amaze me. But that being said, though, as humans, we're reactionary by nature. Even myself, I fall victim to that sometimes. But, like, come on, guys. Be happy with the fact that this is a Bulls team that is better than anything that we've had in a while. Thank God we're playing the Pistons on Wednesday because I don't know how much craziness I can take from fans going forward. Although, if the Bulls lose to the Pistons, who knows? I may end up turning into one of those emotional, reactionary fans. But anyway, guys, not the outcome we wanted, but on to the next. And guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.